Hello, 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 beautiful people, and welcome back to our pre-summit series. Today, we have the absolutely brilliant Dr. Sophia, OBGYN from the Dr. Sophia podcast, joining us live today. Welcome, Dr. Sophia.
Hello, Leah. Oh my gosh, so happy to be here with you again.
This is so full disclaimer, right? Dr. Sophia was with us last year at the Career and Care Summit. She was our inaugural expert and is coming back this year to do even more things, right? We're multiplying the level of exposure that you guys are going to be able to have to Dr. Sophia and her work, because I fundamentally learned so much from the summit experience, but also just from working with a healthcare professional and hearing from, I should say, a healthcare professional that is navigating a similar stage of life. I think a lot of times we're kind of thinking of doctors as just experts in medicine, not necessarily their own experiences. And that was really what drove me to find you. You know, we traveled the end of the earth, my team and I, trying to make sure that we found a healthcare professional that reflected the population that we were serving and also had a level of just expertise and approachability that you have. So I am thrilled for you to be back with us.
Thank you. It's really a pleasure to be back. I think being able to speak to women, especially who are in midlife, a phase that I'm clearly in as well, and share not only my own journey, but also to share a lot of the medicine, the things that people just don't understand that well, in an approachable way through a very lived experience, I think um, is so important. So that way we have better connection.
So the Career and Care Summit is less than, I think we're at 4 days away at this stage,
Yeah.
and just 4 days. And the countdown has been exciting in so many ways, and also just this kind of tiptoes of expectation. Last year for our inaugural summit, we really weren't sure what to expect, right? Like we went out on faith, on the belief, and there was also some research. Obviously, there was some data that said we need to make sure we create these opportunities where professional women who are navigating their second act of life, or navigating the stages of life that come along with perimenopause and menopause, have some resources that are not only credible, but also blended in with the professional and the personal life things that we know lots of women are facing, right? We wanted to put some things on the table that may have felt taboo to discuss in the past. And I don't know where taboos come from because they haven't served me yet. So I'm not sure who gets served by keeping these kind of ideas taboo. But I wanted to jump into a couple of questions and really encourage folks. This is just going to be a taste. Dr. Sophia is just going to give you like a little bit of the wet your palate, because one, she has a full on session in our main plenary session during the Career and Care Summit. She's taking the main stage. So she'll be up there with her moderator as well as another healthcare professional. And so we're already going deep for that session. And then she's going to stay with us later in the day. We're going to have lunch, take a little bit of time to kind of decompress, process what we learned on the first panel, and then she's going to do a full Q&A session later on in the afternoon. So you're going to get, if for everybody who is choosing to join us at the summit, and I really want you to be there, you are going to get 2 different opportunities to hear the brilliance that Dr. Sophia has to bring to the table. So we're just going to give you a taste today, just so you know, if you're thinking, oh, I wasn't sure if I was going to buy my ticket, I'm not clear. Now Dr. Sophia is going to close it out, right? She's going to close it for you.
100%. You need to be there.
You need to be there. So
just be there.
So I love, there's a lot of questions that we've already gotten from last year, right? We got some really thoughtful engagement from the women who joined us last year. We had 100 women in the room that were there for the summit. And then perimenopause as a survey topic. When we asked folks, you know, what's resonated with you the most and what would you like to hear more about? Perimenopause and menopause had 5 times more positive responses than any other topic that we talked about at the summit. And I was so moved by it because initially when we thought about designing the summit, it was, you know, do we talk about it? Do we really go in and kind of poke the bear on those taboos? And I was going back and forth and gotten advice from board members and other folks and what their perception was. And when we doubled down on it and when we did it and when we were able to bring in an expert as capable and as approachable as you, I think that made all the difference. But it also kind of pulled back, you know, the onion for folks in a way that they hadn't seen before and they were really excited about. So Talk to me just for a bit about what are the most common perimenopause symptoms that women in any age range might begin to experience? Because you gave us some new information last year that perimenopause can start sooner than we had anticipated. So, if you can give us a perspective on what are those common perimenopause symptoms?
So, just to give everybody a level playing field, when we're just talking about what is perimenopause, first of all, and it's a transition period between when a woman is, it's the transition before she actually gets to full blown menopause, what we call 12 months after she's had her last period. And so, when we think about perimenopause, people don't realize that it can take 5 to 10 years to go through that transition. And I think some of what the first thing that comes to mind when people are thinking perimenopause or menopause, they think, oh, hot flashes, and of course they may say, oh, my periods are changing. And those are definitely some of the common symptoms, but other common symptoms include fatigue, include sleep disturbance, where you're just not sleeping well, include weight gain, and include mood changes that women are not anticipating or don't have actual answers to. They're like, what's going on with me? I definitely feel that the number one thing that happens in perimenopause is that women just feel this kind of like, I just don't feel like myself. And they can't even like pinpoint exactly what that thing is. And so those are just a handful of what some of the common symptoms.
I think I've heard from so many professional women who are navigating really important transitions in their career that not acknowledging that perimenopause was having an impact on the way that they showed up at work um, really held them back from really being able to feel confident in taking the next big step in their career. And oftentimes it's driven by this like lack of trust for themselves or even their own body.
Yeah.
And when you said that sleep deprivation or sleep disruption or disturbance, sorry, was the word you used, sleep disturbance, is part of it. I think it always reminds me that when we're not fundamentally getting the rest that we need as human beings just to function, how that has a cascading impact on other parts of our lives and how important it is to make sure that not only we can identify that we are approaching or navigating sleep disturbance and put systems in place, but even like our family systems that are aligned to our having enough rest and the people that we are supporting at home need to be supportive and like thoughtful of the changes that I personally am navigating. I'm letting my husband and my children know on a regular basis. There's some changes that are coming, right?
That are
Where
coming.
there might be
Yeah.
a new sheriff in town.
I fully agree. And then if I think about another thing that happens is like, I love the fact that you point out the fact of a woman not trusting herself, right, in this stage and why she feels like, well, maybe should I really be gunning for that next promotion when I just don't feel like myself? And I could even speak to a patient story because I have a patient very recently who came to me and said, I just got a new job, but I feel like I can't focus. Like all of a sudden, I just have this um, constant brain fog. And she's getting her period like clockwork. So, very, exactly what perimenopause looks like, where you're still menstruating. So, therefore, you're like, okay, that maybe this isn't what it is, and not really putting two and two together. But luckily she came to me and we talked about it. And I says, well, yeah, this is perimenopause. And yes, we can do something about it so that you can feel more confident going into the next phase.
I love that. I love that you bring not only an expertise, but a level of peace of mind when you're helping with treatment for perimenopause. Because I think that's the part that's often missing in a healthcare experience is maybe you get to a doctor and they make a recommendation, but the idea that the actual problem gets solved fully for you is something that you have to fight for, right? And then you have to maybe see multiple healthcare professionals for, or, you're really trying to rally the right answers and do your own research. And the approach you take, where you're so invested in the individual as well as their health, really, I think, makes a difference and gives so many women the confidence that they need to say, all right, I have the right kind of medical resource, healthcare professional that is advising me on what's next. So then I can now take some decision making back into my own hands because I feel confident on that side of the equation. And I think that's such a gift. Um, so there are some other perimenopausal symptoms that I heard of that seem to be less common. And I'll tell you a personal story. My sister, who is 6 years older than me, so I just am watching her travel through perimenopause to say what experiences she is having and how that could be similar in my experience. And she had a frozen shoulder experience. And I thought that that was a very, we went deep down into the text thread, and, my family is saying, like, do you need to be in the hospital? Or, like, is there something more that's happening? And her doctor was able to get her well informed also really quickly around frozen shoulder, but it felt like a very uncommon
Yes.
perimenopause symptom. So it sent me down this rabbit hole of what are some of the less common symptoms that people may be experiencing and not making a connection that it's a part of their perimenopause transition.
So that is a great one. I think women don't anticipate any of the joint pain that can be associated with perimenopause. And so I can talk to you from just a patient perspective. Aside from frozen shoulder, literally her hands, like kind of like feeling like they're locking up, or and other joints, your knees all of a sudden. And then it's so funny because we would hear our elders and be like, oh, that's just getting old. Or you actually go to the doctor and say, oh, my knees are really hurting me now, or what have you. And they're like, oh, you're getting older. You can expect these things. But in fact, we're young and vibrant in truth, right? And so we should not be just like feeling like we're, 80 years old in this 42-year-old body.
Mm-hmm.
But yet that's exactly what it is, and not being able to relate it back to perimenopause. And so the thing is that most women, when they start having symptoms, including one like frozen shoulder, they go to their doctor and they say, hey, I'm having this pain. And they automatically say, okay, good, we'll send you to an orthopedist. And that's not, although that may be necessary to go to an orthopedist or to see like physical therapy, etc., but missing that link of where they are in their hormones is major. Because again, by acknowledging that there is a hormone change that's happening, and perhaps recognizing if they do need to be on hormone replacement, how that would actually change the landscape for them, how they live in the world daily, so that they're not daily living with pain, so that their frozen shoulder is actually improving. And so, yeah, that's definitely a common symptom that's not typically associated with perimenopause. I would say the other one is just the bloating, or the gut health issues that are also happening during the time of perimenopause, that women also typically don't anticipate. They just think, oh, I must be eating wrong, or not recognizing that they do have to actually change things about their diet during this phase.
So you said so many things that I really resonated with, and I hear from, we're talking about it in our group chats, right? I like to joke that this Career and Care Summit is essentially all of the topics that have come up in the group chats that we are having with our peers, but we're putting them on the table, right? And we're bringing experts in to make sure that we're not just self-diagnosing and, we're Googling and researching. We want to make sure that those challenges or those pain points that people are talking about privately get an opportunity to be discussed publicly, but also get expertise to be able to figure out, all right, what is the actual root cause that we might be navigating? So when you said, they may go to an orthopedist, or they may be sent to an orthopedist when they come in, women come in complaining about knee pain, but the orthopedist doesn't see that root cause link of a shift in hormones. That's where you really do, as an individual, have to say, am I making sure that I am asking for the right level of support, considering the age and stage that I'm in? Because it sounds like a lot of doctors are not getting tremendous training on perimenopause or menopausal symptoms. So that may leave women responsible to make some of those links themselves. And I think that is a lot of responsibility, but I think it also is something that people can be equipped to do once they now can make some of these connections themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that part of the issue is that you're 100% correct, first of all, when you say that most healthcare providers were not given any kind of real tools, education surrounding perimenopause and how to approach the perimenopausal woman. And sometimes that's even gynecologists themselves. And so a patient may come and have a couple of symptoms. And again, the association or making those connections are not necessarily there. So certainly when you go to a healthcare provider and you say, well, I'm starting to have some headaches and I have my shoulder hurts, you're going to go to many times 5 different providers before you actually get to the one person who says, wait a minute, if we can connect the dots here. And all of this actually is perimenopause. So if the patient themselves, the person themselves is able to be educated on what some of those symptoms are, then they themselves have an opportunity to connect the dots and then ask the right questions when they do go to their healthcare provider and say, I realize that I have X, Y, and Z. Do you think that these are all connected to the fact that I'm a 45-year-old woman and, I'm 5 years away probably from going through menopause?
So you give people enough to be able, even people who are joining us at the summit, you give them enough really substantive information to feel more confident to go back to their own healthcare provider and maybe ask a different set of questions or present the information in a way that tells maybe a clearer story so their healthcare professional can be better informed. And then you get the potential for real teamwork, right? Where there is the collaborative effect on your care. And I think that's where the magic happens in medicine. But I'm also curious about treatments. So there have been some treatments that have been demystified in some ways, but also there's some shroud of confusion, I think, in a lot of ways on what types of treatments are available. But when I think about are there any myths to treatment for perimenopause that need to be debunked or have already been debunked, and we want to just make sure that more people know?
I would say probably the biggest debunked myth is that hormone replacement somehow is going to just cause cancer, right? Like that's like the biggest one probably. And also that a woman who's in perimenopause is not a candidate for hormone replacement. Again, totally untrue. Just because a woman who's in perimenopause may still need let's say contraception, doesn't mean that she cannot simultaneously be on hormone replacement, or that we're not having a bigger conversation about what are some of the lifestyle changes that she could be making in that time in order to help deal with some of her perimenopausal symptoms. It's not a one size fits all, number one. And it's not like there's going to be some magic pill. We have to, I think people think that you are going to be able to, once you hear the word perimenopause, there's only one way to manage it. Or if you're not exercising, then you're never going to deal with your perimenopause. And that's not the truth. The truth is that it takes, it's a multifactorial way of approaching the woman who's in perimenopause, and for her to really think about herself and more so her longevity. So if we think about it as far as just lifestyle, then we're able to really better manage and the treatment options for perimenopausal women. But definitely, I would say the concept of hormone replacement. I would say that the other one being that somehow perimenopausal women cannot take, let's say, vaginal hormone replacement. They may be experiencing vaginal symptoms, or that, the only thing that they can do is supplements, So those are some of the big myths.
So I appreciate you acknowledging the myths And I also love that we are talking about vaginal support and contraceptives on YouTube and LinkedIn, right? Like we are, I think, you know,
We literally said the word vagina.
oh my goodness, right? So I absolutely love it because this is the reality that we need to make sure we have the language to be able to explain, and that we have the body autonomy to be able to transfer what our symptoms or what we may be experiencing into the healthcare setting, so that we do know what our treatment options and potentially should or should not be. And oftentimes there's so much taboo or maybe even stigma that goes along with women's reproductive health holistically, from the time where young women get menstrual cycles or start their period all the way through to perimenopause. It's kind of like only something that you discuss in private. And a lot of times, even generations before us, right? I joke all the time about I had no idea what was coming with perimenopause. And now my sister and I joke that, you know, we clearly remember times where our mother was in perimenopause and she just wasn't telling us, right? And we were like observing her behavior or observing changes that she was experiencing, but we weren't talking about it. And I think that part is a little bit unfortunate in one way, but also why we believe the Career and Care Summit is so important and that it needs to happen. Because if you don't have the access to previous generations or access to women who have navigated this journey and want to kind of give you the cliff notes, if you don't have access to that, the Career and Care Summit can play that part and can help to support you in that way. And I think it also will encourage us as the current generation of women who are leading in life and in work and in our homes and communities to be as transparent and as honest as the next generation of women as to what they can come to expect or what they should be prepared for, and to be able to talk about it in a way that feels really transparent, because it sets people up to be more successful. So do you think that there is still taboo or stigma around talking about perimenopause and menopause, as you engage or you hear women maybe coming in and whispering, right, about what they're navigating?
So, first and foremost, I love this question, or just the concept. I would like to acknowledge that our parents and grandparents didn't have language around what was going on with them, nor did they have enough support around what was going on with them either. And so, we can't fault them for something that they simply could not really translate to us. So that's one. And then two, where we are concerned at this point, I think it's amazing how it is because we are so vibrant and we have so much access that we are able to bring this to the forefront, and why it becomes so important to bring it in a place like the Career and Care Summit. Because, hello, we are more than 50% of the workforce. And if we are not understanding our bodies, ourselves, exactly where we are, in order to, continue to grow move up that ladder and feel successful, then we're missing the boat. So, yeah, that's definitely my thought process around that.
You're absolutely right around previous generations not having the language. And I also think, I mean, there's so many layers to previous generations and what they had access to, what options they actually had at their disposal. So I actually feel very fortunate. My mother is still with me, and I'm grateful to God that she is in her 70s. And I have aunts who are in their 60s and 70s. And I have been very fortunate to hear, oh no, you got to be real honest about it now. And I think now that I'm willing to ask the question and we can kind of broach the topic with them, their desire to share or support is there. I think at the time when they were going through it, they might not even known what they were trying to be able to go through or had
Exactly.
resources for themselves. So that's why I think, and this takes us in a whole another layer direction of this multi-generational option of how do we learn from and bring in the stories of young people and our elders, so that we as a community of people benefit from the experience and the wisdom doesn't get lost, right? Like we bring in medical professionals to help us navigate the now, but the wisdom of those experiences or just the empathy that we can also have for women who navigated all of these changes without the supports or the language that we have the privilege of having now. it just feels like a very full circle experience.
I fully agree with you. I fully agree with you. I think now, well, first of all, I would say a couple of different things too is that there is a subset of our older generation who actually, you know, those doctors back way back before the, let's say, the Women's Health Initiative, which was a study that kind of like really changed the landscape, where they were still getting some version of hormone replacement. You know what I mean? Like if you speak to women who are perhaps in their, you know, late 70s and 80s, they may actually still remember when they were first going through that transition that someone did offer them some version of hormone replacement and etc. And so they may be able to speak to what that was like and also what it was like when it completely stopped. So an interesting point when we look back at, you know, what women went through and where we are today.
It is. So we're gonna pause it there, right? Because we were just giving a taste. We want to encourage everybody who is with us here on LinkedIn and on YouTube Live. We're already seeing the comments go a little bit crazy. So very exciting to be able to broker this conversation and bring your expertise to the audience for Career Gems for the Journey. And I think it really does solidify that this is a topic that needs to continually be brought up and we need to shed light on. So we're going to do it at the Career and Care Summit for the second year in a row. Dr. Sophia is in the building. She's going to be there live and in person. And we wanted to make sure this year, not only did she give the first kind of breakout session panel discussion, but that you got a Q&A experience so that it got a little bit deeper. It felt a little bit richer. So we really want all of you to join us this Saturday, March 21st. This Saturday, like it's here now. We've been saying it's coming, but it's here now. We still have just 12 tickets was the update this morning from the team. Just 12 tickets left for the Career and Care Summit. We would love for you to join us in person. You can head to our website at gemsforthejourney.org to grab those tickets. If you can't come because you're not going to be in Philadelphia or maybe you just have other plans, you can absolutely buy a ticket to donate to another woman. We have been getting lots of women who are transitioning in their career, maybe navigating a layoff or navigating a career transition. Who have been asking for scholarships and supports. We had 10 tickets that were scholarships that we've already given away. So if you are interested in supporting the Career and Care Summit and making sure that topics like this get discussed and see the light of day, you can still head over to our website at gemsforthejourney.org, buy a ticket and donate it to another woman who will be able to attend in person. We actually have a little bit of a waiting list for our scholarship. So that would be a tremendous help. But if you are not able to do that, we still really appreciate you sharing this live with someone because we believe this information will enrich the lives of a professional woman who is navigating perimenopause unapologetically.
100%.
So we appreciate you being with us live. Thank you so much, Dr. Sophia. It's always just a fun, amazing, and enriching experience to be able to talk to you. And we are excited to see you again in person at the Career and Care Summit.
Can't wait. Thanks, Leah.
All right. Thanks for riding with us all. Make your journey work for you.
Bye.